All right, well, we hope you get to celebrate later on tonight. But let's get stuck into the results so far. We've had an action-packed weekend already, Freddie.
Yeah, one of the more exciting games on Thursday night, the Broncos. Just not good enough. They were outpaced by the Storm. Young Fa'alonga, one of the players of the future. Seagulls, as we saw, they were just too good. Very little resistance. We knew it was going to be a walker. This time it was Sam for the Roosters that got the money over the Rabbitohs to pencil in a semi-final spot. The Dolphins finished like they started with a win. The Panthers, way too good for the Cowboys. And the Knights, with a second-string team, were so clinical. It was outstanding what the Knights did. And in the NRLW, the Raiders jumped out to 12-0, but the Knights scored 20 unanswered points. The Broncos move into the top 4 to beat the Sharks. Good finish that game. And the Dragons, way too good for the Cowboys.
All right, well, let's have a look at the ladder. Bill, this is nearly set, but pending today's results, there could still be a little bit of movement.
Yeah, well, what is set? The top 4. They're all locked in, with the Panthers taking out their third minor premiership in 4 years. An incredible club, losing a couple of classy players at the start of the year and then still remaining the premiership heavyweights. The Knights, the feel-good team at the moment, they're settled in 5th place. They'll get a home final. And the other 3 of the top 8, they will play finals, but determining where they play it will remain this afternoon's result. So the Sharks and the Raiders go head-to-head this afternoon, and they could very well match off in the first week of the finals next week.
Yeah, looking forward to that game this afternoon. A huge game coming up here on Nine's Wide World of Sports. But a big topic coming into this round was, of course, the resting of players. Everyone had their opinions of it. It was quite heavily discussed. Now that we've seen majority of the games played, what do we think of this decision by some clubs to rest players? Do you think it paid off?
Yeah. I wouldn't want to risk my gun players. And in 5 weeks' time, when someone lifts the trophy, are you going to remember who won in round 27? No.
So with the amount of players that have been rested, do you think that maybe we do need to have a look at having a bye week, or does that halt momentum?
Yeah, that's someone else's decision. I thought Brisbane actually losing the minor premiership, if I was them, they're a young side. I would have played all my players. And then I also thought playing Melbourne, if I had the choice of Melbourne and the Warriors, purely just from a point of view of finals experience, Melbourne are much more experienced than the Warriors. So if I was I would have definitely, if I was the Brisbane Broncos, played my players.
Well, if the Broncos won that game on Thursday night, they would have been playing Melbourne anyway. So I actually think you earn the right to make the decision whether you play your players or you rest your players. And Melbourne and the Broncos, the Panthers, they'd earned the right to make that decision. And last year, Ivan Cleary made that decision to rest all these players in the final round. This year, he made a decision not to. So I think if you earn the right, you get the opportunity to decide what suits you. I think a week off can give the teams down the bottom of the ladder an opportunity to obviously have that week off and rest up. The other thing we need to consider is the HIA, the head injuries. If someone gets a head injury in round 27, well, they're not playing in the first week of the final. So that's another thing to consider.
The thing Newcastle did well was the players they brought in had a really high standard. So what they do say is to the coaches, if there's a semi-final next week, if there's a problem during the week, I'm ready.
Well, we saw that last night with Lockie Miller. He is someone that the Knights could look to use. But there was also a positive about it. We saw a superstar in the making get his opportunity for the Melbourne Storm, Sua Fa'alonga.
Absolutely.
What a moment this was.
Well, this wasn't a surprise to me. I've seen this young boy at training and play in the lower grades for the Melbourne Storm all year, and he is a genuine star. This is all natural for him. This is not something that has been taught to him. It's all natural, and he's a brilliant player. He's got a lot to learn about the game, but he's going to pick that up. But it was great to see him get an opportunity and deliver what is so natural to him. He would have had a great moment.
And he's from Melbourne.
Well, he's from Melbourne. He grew up in Samoa.
Yeah.
He moved to Melbourne when he was 13. And played in the junior league down there. I was actually at the grand final yesterday of the junior league in Victoria, and it's a great participation. A lot of Polynesians down there. They love the game and they create the environment down there. And Sua's one. He actually comes from the junior club of Young Tonomapea, the Northern Thunder. So, yeah, well done to Sua and the junior rugby league in Victoria.
What about touch and tag and stuff? Did he play a lot of that? It feels like he's got a lot of that in him.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. I don't know if he played touch or tag. There is touch competitions and Oztag competitions down in Victoria, but I only know Sue playing rugby league, and he's got a bright future. Like I said, he's got a lot to learn, but we've seen what he's capable of.
Yeah, it was certainly great to watch. Hopefully we get to see a little bit more of him in the NRL in the years to come. But let's have a look at the Penrith Panthers, because their win over the Cowboys handed them another minor premiership. This is their third minor premiership in 4 years. How long do you think this reign will go on for from Penrith Panthers?
I can't see it finishing soon. They've got their key players in those key positions. The interesting one is Jerome Luai. What's going to happen there when he's off contract? But they know their style of play, they know their DNA, and they just don't waste tackles. They're at you all the time. And the key players just know where to get the ball, in what positions, the combinations are there, they know how to play, what plays where. So hard to beat.
It's a defence. Yeah. I suppose while their attitude and their club's built on saving tries and stopping tries, and then you always give yourself a chance. There's a couple of tries scored. Well, look how hard they make you work for a try. There's 3 blokes there, and he had to squeeze his arm through a bit of, through a tiny little gap. They just go so hard at you in defence. They give you very little opportunity.
How much does this game set them up for the finals, do you think? Obviously, they had that loss last week to the Parramatta Eels. They're now heading into the finals with a win, and also having Jack Cogger in the halves for a game there, working on the combinations.
I think what it also does is send a message to whoever their opposition is. If you're going in getting beat by 30 by Parramatta, you think your opposition might be, look at the video and find some weaknesses and be pretty confident. But all of a sudden, expected a team that's very hard to score against, and they're at you all over the field.
Geez, Nathan was unbelievable. Last week I thought Nathan was a little bit rattled. I wonder how we would go without Jerome. Well, it showed last night. It was just
didn't realise you had a young kid there, Nath. Must have had in the off-season.
they do all the little things right. A couple of guys that I think have had a great year is Sunia Turuva. He scored 2 tries. Ran for 200 metres. That's a common occurrence for him this year. In his debut rookie year, he's been outstanding. The other guy who's had a bit of experience is Stephen Crichton. I think Stephen Crichton he's a genuine star. Like, he's coming up with some really big plays. These sort of plays defensively, he's had a great, especially the back half of the year. I thought he's great in Origin. He's been great for the Panthers. He's going to be sorely missed, but they've got him for another month, and he can make a real difference in these big games coming up.
Just quickly on the Cowboys, what do you think that they would take out of this season?
Well, they've missed the most tackles out of any team in the competition. I think that's what they'll take out of it. They haven't committed themselves defensively like they did last year. They were really good at that last year, and they've missed the most tackles out of any team this year. So I wouldn't look past that.
Plenty to work on for the Cowboys. Let's turn our attention to the Newcastle Knights, because they made it 9 in a row last night. They're certainly on a red-hot run at the moment as we head into the finals. What did you make of their performance last night, Joey?
I thought it was incredible. This man, Tyson Gamble, he was the best player on the field by a mile. When they bought him, I thought, oh, well, he's going to play one of those players that tic-tacs between reserve grade and first grade. I didn't see him as a starting 5'8". He's killing it.
What has been that change? How is he?
Well, when I saw him playing for Brisbane, I thought he was energetic. I didn't see the class. I didn't see his passing and didn't see his kicking. Geez, he's played well. And the outside backs for Newcastle, they have just got that winning feeling. Geez, they're playing well. So good to see. I was worried about last night. I thought it was a danger game.
Clune's done a great job.
Hasn't he
stand in for Hastings? Does he keep that spot, or
no? I think Jackson will come back in, but he's shown that he's ready if anything happens.
Obviously, Bill, they are without Kalen Ponga for this game, but he is set to return from that shoulder injury for week 1 of the finals. We were discussing it in the coverage last night whether to keep Lockie Miller on the bench.
Potentially. Yeah, certainly. Kalen, he's the difference in this team. He needs to be there. He's a big game player. In these big games, you need those big game players. And Dom Young's one of those guys that can finish off movements, but Kalen needs to be in the team. So hopefully he gets over that shoulder injury and he makes his way back in. Adam O'Brien has done a fantastic job with this group. They've conceded in the last 9 games that they've won, they've conceded on average 2 tries conceding. That's remarkable. But the other remarkable thing is they've scored more tries than any other team in the competition. They're the best attacking team in the competition in terms of tries scored. So they're not just putting the ball under their wing and just completing their sets. They're going after the games and they're scoring some points. So they've got a good mix at the moment.
It's quite remarkable as well to think it was, a couple of months ago that there was discussion about Adam O'Brien being under pressure because of some of the results and stuff, and then to turn it around and do what they're doing, it's extremely impressive.
And when you talk to people in Newcastle, just prior to when, were they on a 10-game streak at the moment?
9.
9-game streak. Just prior to that, they're actually playing pretty good football. They weren't going that bad. They just weren't winning games. And, you know, they were going through, you know, Kalen was changed position. He had a HIA problem there for a while. And, you know, when you speak to them, that's where they gain their confidence through there. Then when they started to win, they just realised all that hard work and, you know, what they'd done during that period where things weren't going their way. Actually, it all turns around. And now you see the result of it. It's just a club that's all moving in the one direction. The way they attack off the different sets, when they go back there, outside backs go back and do their job and they're incredible, and all of a sudden they get a bit of luck and get a penalty, and you see how their set changes and everyone moves into that role. So they're all on the same page. They know what they're doing. They know how best to win games, and like Billy said, they attack the game. It doesn't matter if the other team's putting pressure on; they still attack you. It doesn't matter where it was in the field.
The Dragons were hopeless last night. Shane Flanagan's got the biggest off-season. Their attack last night was just so poor. So poor. So they've got a huge off-season. Shane Flanagan, he's going to have to whip him into shape.
What do you think his first point of order? What has he got to do?
He's got to work out who's going to play in those key positions. But they need to work out their style. Their attack last night, it never threatened. It absolutely never threatened. Geez, how poor.
They threat with a kick. I think Jacob Little, he makes a difference. He's got a little bit of touch around dummy half. But outside Ben Hunt with his kicks, that's the only way they threatened. He'd kick to Zach Lomax, he'd kick for a restart, kick for his own try, kick for field position. They didn't do anything outside that. Not a thing.
A bit for the Rugby to work on in the off-season.
Oh, they've got a big off-season. Huge off-season.
Fair bit. All right, well, let's move on to the Storm and the Broncos game on Thursday night at Suncorp Stadium. It was fairly close. It was a strong battle. This was a very entertaining match to watch. Bill, what did you take out of this one?
Both teams had a lot of first graders out. I think the Storm had about 11 and the Broncos about 8, and it was tit for tat in the first half. Grant Anderson scored a double. He could have had a hat-trick in the first half. He put his foot on the touchline when he scored a try, but this was just after half-time. I thought young Tristan Saylor was outstanding. Every time he's come into first grade and played for the Broncos, he's done a great job. Great to see Ryan Pappenhausen back, played a full game, played the first half at fullback and then jumped into, I think he played halfback at one stage there as well, but yeah, Sua Falongo, he stole the show, and there was 5 debutants, so it was great.
You mentioned Ryan Pappenhausen there. I think it was 78 minutes he played. He came off with about 2 minutes still to go. That was his first pretty much full game back. How did you assess not only his performance but also his fitness? Yeah,
I think he's great. He's had a month of footy under his belt now. Heavily involved, great support play. He gets his plays on. That's the one thing. He certainly doesn't have the electric sort of footwork and speed that he left the game with. That'll come. But at the moment, he's getting the game right. He's getting his plays on and he's supporting his ball carry. He's going to be a wonderful addition in this final series. I think Craig Bellamy will play him off the bench. Nick Meaney will start at fullback and Ryan Pappenhausen could come off the bench. You can inject him anywhere. He can play dummy half through the middle of the field. What a luxury to have Ryan Pappenhausen back.
If I was starting a club tomorrow, I would sign Wishart. First signing. He can play anywhere. He can play halfback, 5'8", dummy half in the middle and works hard. Jeez, he's a good player. Looks like he trains hard. Like his dad is a champion fella. Jeez, he's a good player.
We also saw, and you mentioned the players rested, Cameron Munster. He was rested from that game. It's also been a big week for him. He had his second child. How do you manage having a newborn baby heading into finals? What's the ideal situation?
You stay at a hotel.
Just do your best left-hand flick pass there to your wife with the,
I was about to say,
with a little bubba in the...
I'm not too worried about Cameron Munster. I'm worried about Bianca. And she's just had 3 kids now, so you've got to look after 3 of them.
Yeah, the oldest is the naughtiest. Look at
The oldest is the naughtiest. All right, we have plenty more coming your way this morning. Well, this week's Manshake Gutsiest Player of the Week award goes to Billy Smith, getting back into the Roosters side after 3 ACL injuries. It is great to see him fit and firing this season. It's actually, having a look at his games, so he's played 26 games over the past 5 years, and 14 of those have come this year, which just goes to show how disrupted his journey has been with injuries.
cracking young fella, and in the off-season changed pretty much everything. Went on this pretty extreme diet, was doing a lot of that intermittent fasting. God forbid he gave up the booze, but he's reaping the rewards. Great young bloke, great to see him playing consistent first grade, and we can see the player he is. He's a pretty good player.
And what a performance it was. The Roosters ending South Sydney's season with a 26-12 victory. The Roosters now into the finals, and the Rabbitohs, it's actually quite remarkable the fact that they were sitting at the top of the table in round 11. No other team has been at the top of the table so late in the season and to now miss out on finals footy.
Well, they've won 4 of their last 13 games. And to be fair, they had quite a few injuries through that middle part of the year. And I think a lot of the commentary around the Rabbitohs was, when these players come back, they'll be okay. They're still in a really good position on the ladder. Finals, everyone will be back fully fit. I think they listened to that commentary as well. It looked like they just created too many bad habits in their game and they just couldn't get them out.
Do you think that we often talk about there's outside noise at a club and, players say that they try and ignore it, but do you think that in this situation, all the ongoings that happened at the club have impacted the team?
Well, it comes out of your game. And when the pressure was on, they weren't up to it. So it's just been one of those tough seasons for them.
Well, something's wrong. It's not the outside noise, it was the inside noise. Something's missing, something's wrong there. I spoke about the Dragons having a big off-season. These clubs got an even bigger off-season. They need to sort through some problems. With the roster and the team they've got to win, would you say 4 of the last 13? That's just totally unacceptable. They need to sort out some of those dramas that's happening within the club.
Well, Jason Demetrio was actually pretty open, raw and honest in his post-match press conference, taking a lot of the blame himself. Take a listen to what he had to say.
Yeah, it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's from where we got to, the pre-season we had in the first half of the season, and yeah, disappointing. That performance probably summed up at back end of the year. We're just not quite nailing a few things. Our effort and fight was outstanding, but yeah, just not capitalising when we had opportunities and then leaking points when they had them. Oh, it's going to be part of a deep review for sure. I've got to hold my hands up there. I'm the head coach. It's on me to make sure that we have better. We're not falling like we were. I can sit here and make excuses, but yeah, it hurts. It's a tough lesson to learn, but I'll learn it.
Cameron Murray, go sit on a beach for a month in the sun and do nothing. The amount of effort he puts into a game, even the other night, he was sensational. God, he's a good player.
How do they approach these next few weeks and then into the pre-season? For South's players, do they say go away, take your mind off footy for a little bit, and then what do they
have a freshen up? But then when we get back to work, we've got to work hard. I think it's a physical thing. It's also a mental thing. They need to sort through some of those issues. And look, the noise from within will say there's no issues. There is issues because you don't finish the season like that when just after Origin, everyone was speaking that they're the team going to make a grand final. So something's missing there.
Well, you just hope they all have the attitude of their head coach. He's looking at himself. He's looking at his own actions and what he can do better. So if everyone does that, the club will they're going to be in good shape because we know the quality that they've got in terms of the player personnel.
Lachlan Ilias fell off a cliff. Last year he was in great form, started the year really well. They were scoring a lot more tries, excuse me, down their right side. He had a really good combination with Keon Kaloa-Matangi. And for whatever reason, Lachlan's lost a lot of confidence. Last year I think they scored pretty much double tries on their left side compared to their right. This year was pretty even. So I don't know whether it's a confidence thing or Lachlan was carrying an injury, but he's too good a player to be playing like he was towards the end of the year.
It was across the park at Campbell Graham, Kaloa-Matangi.
He was busted. He had bad sternum, didn't he, Campbell Graham? He missed some tackles, like that missed tackle on Billy Smith. He normally never missed that tackle.
Across the park, they were a bit down. Also, plenty of suspensions, plenty of big blokes out. Tom Burgess missed a huge part of the season. Taverta Totola missed a huge part of the season.
Saleh.
Some of those other front rowers all missed big chunks of the season. Hard when you haven't got your big front rowers. That always helps.
What about for the Roosters, Freddie? A huge turnaround for them, quite the opposite to South Sydney. So 14th place 5 weeks ago and now playing finals footy.
I was just looking at who scored their tries. So there was no Daniel Tupou going in, no Joseph Manu. So Corey Allen, young Ponga, the winger, James Tedesco, Billy Smith, Sam Walker. So, yeah, you can just see a bit of a change of the guard here from the Roosters. And although they all stood up, they all played their part. The winger was outstanding, Ponga. Very Brian Tyler-like, just strong, good footwork. He was a creative one, Sam Walker.
How far do you see him off playing Origin? Sam, don't be throwing punches there, mate. It's not your go.
Well, he's certainly got that within his future. I think we've all seen that. I can't believe that he hasn't played a big chunk of the season. Obviously, he'd been injured with his knee, but he was dropped earlier in the year.
I love watching him play. He just pulls the trigger, does things that, excuse me, no other halfback probably does on the field. He just backs himself. First instinct, he's all in. He just backs himself.
That try assist to Ponga on the left-hand side, when someone rushed out at him and he stepped back inside, he knew what he was doing before he even passed the ball. He knew what the defence was going to do, and he just ripped the pass. He doesn't think twice.
A few big weeks ahead for the Roosters. Their fans will be pretty happy that the fact that they're playing finals footy.